Somaliland.
Let's expand on this in the company of Dr. Afyare Elmi, Assistant Professor of International Politics at Qatar University, also specialises in Somali political affairs. First of all, give us an idea why Somaliland has managed to remain relatively stable compared to the chaos that there is not so many hundreds of kilometres to the south.
Well, Somaliland actually has been stable for about 15 or 16 years. Since I think 1992, and there are several factors that actually help this part to stay at least in stable. One is that they had some form of identity which they wanted to mobilize and use against others, namely the issue of just seceding from the rest of Somalia. But also, I have to say that the politicians there have shown some majority that whenever a conflict arises, they were able to resolve it or address it peacefully from 1992 onwards.
So the worry might be, not just from a Somaliland perspective, but perhaps from an international one as well, that any efforts to knock that off course could destabilize the country and fall into the hands of people like the Al-Shabaab fighters, maybe Al-Qaeda?
Well, the region as a whole is an interesting region simply because there are, the state system, whether the outside Somalia or within Somali enclaves, has never been or have never been strong enough to have the monopoly over legitimate violence. Absolutely, that has never been the case. So, yes, the potential is out there. And
Al-Shabaab have tried to make inroads there,
well,
but failed?
At least according to the Somaliland leadership, the suicide bombing that took place a while back was at least a product or, an act of Al-Shabaab, and that's what they argue.
In fact, a lot of them, you told me earlier, they come from there.
Well, yes, and not only the leaders, but also some foot soldiers are also coming from there. So in general, Somalia or the Somali people have some sort of homogeneity where they can associate with one another. So the relationship is far more complex than, one is from this party and the other is from that part. And I think the potential is still there.
How much has the international community put into Somaliland, which is not a very wealthy region, doesn't earn a great deal of money itself? How much have they put in to try and maintain this stability?
I think they have given some support, not a lot, mostly in development area. International community has encouraged and welcomed the peace and stability, and also encouraged the development in the area of political governance, which in fact Somaliland is far ahead from the rest of Somalia.
And are there concerns that the difficulties we saw in Mohamed Addow's story might destabilize the country?
The concerns actually are real. Yeah, the opposition feels that the government is not interested in holding this election. And I think there is a lot at stake. Unless these elections take place, there might have some problems. That said, though, I just want to qualify this and say that if history tells us anything, Somaliland leadership has shown that at least they could address and solve with the traditional leadership the issues when they arise. And
the long-standing issue of recognizing Somaliland as an independent country, it won't go away. Would it help with that long-term stability, in your opinion, if it were given
Well, the international community was not interested in going that direction, and usually state formation comes either that you have the support of the superpower, or the two countries that want to separate are in agreement, and neither exists in Somalia. Washington is not championing the secession of Somaliland. It has referred back to the AU and African Union, obviously, for obvious reasons of artificial boundaries and so many issues. They are not willing to open this debate. So I think as much as the international community encourages and supports the development in the governance, in the security, they may not go toward the direction of at least that's what history tells us as of now.
Dr. Elmi, thank you very much indeed. You'll keep an eye on affairs there. Come back and tell us some more. Good to have you on this news hour.
Thank you.
A rift between Thailand and Cambodia looks set to deepen, and at the centre of the dispute is a former Thai Prime Minister, Timor Nabili, in our Kuala Lumpur Broadcast Centre. Mr. Shinawatra cannot keep out of the headlines, can he?
He certainly wants, it seems, David, to keep a high profile, and he certainly has got one. The latest instance of this major saga that involves him is that Cambodia is refusing to hand him back to Thailand despite a formal extradition request from Bangkok that was received today. Thaksin arrived in Cambodia yesterday, Tuesday, invited by Prime Minister Hun Sen to be his economic advisor. But Thailand immediately sent the extradition request, saying he needs to come back and face charges of corruption. Laura Kyle reports.
A friendship that's causing a political storm. Thailand's fugitive former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra welcomed with open arms by Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen.
I respect him very much, the effort that he had put into his government tenure of almost 2 terms.
These pictures, broadcast on Cambodian national television, a slap in the face for Thailand, desperate to get Thaksin back so he can serve a 2-year jail sentence for corruption. But Cambodia is refusing to honour an extradition treaty signed by both countries on the ground that the demand is politically motivated. Hun Sen has instead given Thaksin a new job as economic advisor. The one-time billionaire tycoon has since seen most of his assets frozen in Thailand, but many in Cambodia remember his economic policies, helping the rural poor. And on Thursday, he'll be briefing 300 Cambodian economists. Thaksin has embraced the opportunity.
Might be happening, but I don't expect this birth. It's just like, you know, the mentality of Cold War and 21st century. For the mentality of the Cold War is to think your neighbor is your enemies or competitors, like in the Cold War times. But in 21st century, we consider the neighbors as partners, and in this is borderless world era. So we don't talking about zero-sum game. We're talking about mutual interests. Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, 3 countries combined GDP is only 10% of the time. So why you are so worried? You know, if your neighbor is still poor and you are so rich, so why don't you help your neighbor?
Thaksin's appearance so close to home is unlikely to be permanent. He's mostly resided in Dubai during his year of self-imposed exile. But that's done little to calm current Thai Prime Minister Abdi, for whom Thaksin has consistently caused problems. Thaksin, who was ousted in a coup in 2006, still enjoys much popularity amongst the Thai rural people, who hold regular protests in Bangkok against Abdi's unelected government. Abdi's government says it's considering how to respond to Cambodia's provocative political manoeuvrings.
We'll try to send Cambodia more information to make sure that Cambodia authorities have full knowledge of the cases of Kun Thaksin, which is a criminal cases. And number 2, we are in the process of reviewing all of the relations and agreements with Cambodia at the moment. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will come up with a new steps and measures presented to the cabinet next week.
But Cambodia is full of bravado that Thailand can do little to hurt it. Even closing the border, it says, will hurt Thai exports more than Cambodian. Analysts suggest Hun Sen is gambling on Thaksin's Pheu Thai party eventually winning power in the not-so-distant future. Until then, relations between the 2 countries look likely to plummet.
And let's join Laura Kyle live now in Phnom Penh. Laura, is there any chance that Hun Sen might change his position on this extradition?
Timor, there seems to be very little chance indeed. He seems to be stubbornly sticking to his refusal to extradite Thaksin, using a loophole in the understanding between the 2 countries on their treaty that allows one side to deny the request if it's politically motivated. And Hun Sen says this is politically motivated. And far from trying to pacify the Abbasid government, he has instead been parading himself with Thaksin on Cambodian national television, seemingly uncaring about the effect that this is going to have on current Thai and Cambodian relations.
The Thai authorities